having me.
All right, thank you.
Let me accept. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So many thanks for inviting me and for having me, and the opportunity to speak to people and to meet people and just to share my own knowledge and experience. All right. So packaging for the streets too, and today we are talking about interviews.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll try to make it fast, and what to expect from my conversation today. I'll talk about what are interviews, types of interviews, and generally how to approach interviews or smashing interviews. So just basically like 3 areas, but we can have conversations broadly about interviews. So last week we talked about your CV. So CV is like is documents that represents you when you submit it to a company, and it's the door opener. So it opens the door because it's your CV that would have attracted that will attract the interviewer or the panelist or the directors of the company to say, who is this? We want to see this person, so we can match the person's speaking ability, are able to convince us with what is put on paper. You know, some people are more than what their CV represents, so they underrepresent themselves in their CV. And then when you invite them to an interview panel, they blow up the whole place like you are far better than what you've documented on paper. While some other people is the reverse. So they have this lofty, amazing CV. And then when you bring them to the table to talk about themselves, they just can't project themselves in the same light that they've done in their CV. And you begin to, you see the disconnect and like, is it the same person? Yes, so I know that happens a lot, even if I'm talking about maybe getting a scholarship or a typical job. When you put out your CV, it's your profile. So what your profile is saying and what you are saying, do they match? So your CV opens the door, and then we want to hear what you have to say if it really matches what you see. So interviews, the structured conversation where one participant or a team or a panel is asking questions to another participant, in this case, the job candidates, for that job candidate to provide answers. So like I said, the CV gets you through the door, and once you start getting invitation for interviews, it means that potential employers are excited about you. And that is, some people say, how do I know my CV is strong? How do I know that I can get a job? Well, the litmus test is that you start getting invitations for interviews. Once you get 1, 2, 3 invitations for interview, it means your CV is doing good in the marketplace. Now it's now your opportunity to smash that interview. Okay, so the interview gives you the opportunity to sell yourself and to prove that you are who you say you are based on your CV. Of course, we know that there's a competitive nature of interviews. So it's not just up to you selling yourself, but it's again, how many people are invited for that interview and what's your ranking. So if your performance overall, what's the positioning? So you could do very well in an interview and not still get a job for 2 reasons. Someone else was better than you at that particular point in time. And we'll talk about rejection and how to deal. Someone was better than you at that point in time. And it's not like it's you being rejected. It's just that the position at that moment is not for you. Or another reason could be the issue of fit. So there's what we call person fit or organization fit, even from a research perspective. So we're looking for the right fit for that position. So you could be amazing, you could be wonderful, but the panelists or the owners of the company don't see you to be the proper fit from a personality perspective or organizational culture perspective. So if you don't fit, you might not get it. But at least you have an opportunity to have a conversation. So it's actually a 2-way conversation, a 2-way assessment. So the panelists are trying to assess you to see if you belong, if you fit into that organization. But the other part that is not being emphasized often is the fact that you are also trying to assess the organization to know if that is a good fit for you.
Mhm.
But in research term, we always talk about lack of alternative opportunities. So where there are an environment that has lack of opportunities, the interviewees, the candidates often don't see themselves like it's an opportunity to assess the organization. It's a case of, Father Lord, let me have this job. Even when the job is not for you, you can already sense that they treat people shabbily, but you just want a job. But in environments where there are alternative opportunities, you need and you know your worth. Another factor, I talk like a researcher, many factors. Another factor is at what stage are you in your career? So you see that people who are in a top senior level position or they have lots of experience always have the opportunity to assess more and to even turn down a job that has been given to them. But when you are trying to break into the job market, to a particular industry, the tendency is for you not to even assess them, which is the second part of the interview. They're assessing you. And when it's time for you to assess if it's a good place, because you just want a job, you just want to get in, you don't ask them questions, you don't assess. The interview process gives you the opportunity to evaluate the company as much as they evaluate you, to know if that place is right for you. And one of the things we need to know is that interview is a game. So I made a statement last week. I know this is being recorded. And then when I was reflecting, I don't know if it was my reflection or the Holy Spirit I was trying to bring my attention to what I said, if that was actually correct. So I need to situate it. So I said, someone said an interview is a meeting between two liars. So I was reflecting on that. How true is that? And is that a correct thing to say from a Christian perspective? So what I mean, if I will clarify that, is not lie like the typical traditional lie, like calling white black or black white, but in a formal structure, it's a form of exaggeration or a form of putting out your best foot, telling them what they want to hear. So that is the conceptualization of lies there, because they have what they want to hear. So are you telling them the sweet things, just like you go out on a date? So, well, you're on a date with a romantic partner or a potential romantic partner. Are you saying the right things? So, of course, you are a nice person. You make a good husband or wife in the future, but are you saying the right things? Are you selling yourself? Another example is election campaign. Oh, I will build, because it's also interview. They're going from state to state. You want the position of a governor or president. So what are you saying? So for people to believe you, of course, we know now at the end of the day, do they do all the things they say they would? So you are selling yourself. So that is where the so-called lie comes. You are trying to emphasize that you are better than you even think you are, and because you want to convince them and get the job. So that's where it's a game, and it's a form of exaggeration to really sell yourself. Some people undervalue themselves, either because you don't know your worth, or you just have not mastered the art of ART, the art of interviews and smashing the interview. All right. So let me talk about types of interviews now. There are many types of interviews, but I'll just focus on two, which is behavior-based interviews and scenario-based interviews. So for behavior-based interviews, the hiring manager or the owners of the company want to know more about how you act in certain situations. So they are asking you specific questions to know your behavior, because when we are dealing with knowing your behavior, your personalities, your values, and what you represent. Yes, so how do we know that is true? Behavior-based questions. And they also ask you these questions to gauge how successful you are at solving problems, which also reveal your personality, your skills, and your abilities. Some of the questions that they would ask you would require you to share your story, or a specific story that will highlight your strengths and skills. For example, your time management skills. They might ask you a question like, tell me about a goal that you set and you reached the goal, and how did you achieve it? So we'll be able to see your behavior. If you are good in time management, if you are good in planning and organization. Then another example could give me an example of a time you had to prioritize certain tasks or projects over others. How did you go about it? So multitasking, organization again. Tell me a time when you handled a challenging situation or when you made a mistake. What did you do to correct it? I want to see if you are open to feedback and corrections, because some people will never admit to making a mistake. Let the heavens fall. They will never say they are sorry. So they want to check your behavior. And if you will be a good team player. You know, we say all these nice things on our CV. I can work independently, little or no supervision, good team player, excellent communication skills. We write all those things, but when we ask you a question, tell us a specific example, a story, and we can test. So, but you need to prepare for those stuff. And the last one, they could say, tell me a time you felt that you went above board. And that's to test your citizenship behavior. Are you a supportive co-worker? We want to know from your behavior. That's for behavioral questions. Then the second one type of interview would be scenario-based. So for scenario-based, it requires you to describe how you would respond to a hypothetical situation in the future. So interviewers use these questions to predict and assess your future performance. So by asking you some of those scenario-based questions, they try to determine how well it fits into the company. We talk about fit again, fits into the company's culture and how likely you are to succeed in position. It will also reveal a lot again about your skills, your abilities, your work ethics, your character, and your personality. Remember last week I talked about hard skills and soft skills. So for hard skills, we know that it's subject matter expertise. If you're looking for the position of a project manager, okay, you have the training, you have the qualifications, but who are you? Because every other person applying have the training, have the qualification, and the understanding is that even if you are not top-notch in your hard skills, they will provide you training. On the job training, you will learn, you will improve. As far as you have the fundamentals, the cognitive abilities, the intellectual, you will learn. But for the soft skills, it will be difficult for you to learn because your personality has already crystallized. I remember when we were at LBS, there was a lecturer that was employed at about the time I got in as a research assistant. And he had amazing profile. He schooled in the US. He had like 45 papers. It was so good. But his character, he was whack. He was a cantankerous human being. So you may know.
I remember the person. Yeah.
Yes, he was really bad. He was really bad. He
Mm.
was treating students like trash, treating colleagues. You know, I can't remember the exact story that got him out eventually, but LBS could not take it anymore because, you know, so that's the soft skill, your personality, and that's what they call recruitment error. So like, how did you bring this kind of human being?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, because you don't fit the culture of the company. And there are some companies like the public universities in Nigeria that they don't mind. That's why you see that any goddamn human being, as far as you have your PhD, you're a professor, you can come in and you just treat students anyhow. But like in the UK here, you know you can't, you know you cannot be a territorial and narcissistic human being, and you are dealing with, you want to see your emotional intelligence. And they will ask you scenario-based questions. They will know in that interview panel who you really are, because you will give it away without knowing. So while behavior-based questions ask you to reflect on past work experience, scenario-based questions might require you to explain how you would approach and handle work-related scenarios. But someone was telling me that even when they ask you scenario-based questions, when you start answering the questions and you start talking about, for example, my past role, they like it a lot because you are now turning a scenario-based question to express your experience. And in the UK, you have experience. Once you have experience, so we're asking you a hypothetical situation, but you are telling us that you've actually encountered it, and this is how you approached it. That will really give you a pass. So there's always a structure for answering questions. It's called the STAR approach. But when you're answering, you won't tell them that I'm answering this question based on STAR approach. But in your head, that is your framework. And STAR means STAR, S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for results. So you are saying this was the situation that when I was in my interview recently for Nottingham Trent University. So I said in my last semester when I was teaching this course, this was the situation. It was an online teaching environment and I had 20 students and they were not speaking and I wanted them to engage. So that was the situation. This was the task I gave them, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, now I explain my task. Then the action, I put them in a breakout room and I entered the breakout room and I tried to elicit their reaction. I tried to engage them. Many of them were quiet. But after the engagement and trying to probe them, as a result, they discussed the situation, and we came out with findings. So I've talked about situation, task, action, and results. It's the STAR approach. You should tell us what you achieved at the end of the day. In my last role, I encountered this challenge, and this was how I approached it, and then the actions I took. And as a result, I achieved this. And so that's how to nail interview question, well, either a behavior question or scenario based. All right, so that's pretty much my take. Then lastly, just some little approaches on how to smash your interview. So in the light of COVID and the changes in the workplace at the moment, we now have online interviews. But previously, it was always face-to-face. So there are some jobs where they invite you, they will pay for your transportation. So, but it depends again on levels. I know for academic positions in the UK, they pay for your transportation. So if I live in Sheffield and you want me to do a face-to-face interview in Leicester or Manchester, I'll take my train, I'll keep my tickets, they will refund it. Either I get the job or not. But when the COVID thing started, interviews became online. So I had 2 interviews online, and that again brings a different dynamics. So for example, if it was face-to-face interview, all the people that are being shortlisted, we have to come because they've probably scheduled them 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock interviews. But all of you will come, you will sit down, do a briefing, and then they take you around. You need to see the schools, look at everywhere, welcome you. Then you have your interviews. Then after that, they will even serve you lunch. So it's almost like a whole day event. But for the online, I already knew my time. That was 10 o'clock to 11. So now, because it's my house now, I don't have to go anywhere. And sometimes you can even write notes. I know that time I write notes, I'll put it on the wall like, if you ask me one question, I'll read it. Yeah. But the thing is that when the questions start rolling, you won't remember any paper. So it's what you know, because it's not just one person. In most cases, you even have 3 people, depending on the kind of position. You might have the HR manager, your head of department, and then probably another senior lecturer or senior person that is an expert in your field that will come. So some of the steps you can take or approaches is to be on time, at least 10, 15 minutes before time. But if it's online, 10 minutes or 5 minutes is enough because they'll keep you in the waiting room and then let you. Then of course you need to dress well. In the UK, they dress for the weather and they are not as deliberate in dressing. I don't know, I hope I don't sound discriminatory or stereotypical. They are not as smashing in dressing. That's my understanding as like we in Nigeria. For example, in the workplace, when you see a typical banker in Nigeria, their suits nadai, they dress to kill. But here, I remember when I came here my first day at uni to have my supervisory meeting. So I wore my suit and I reached there, I looked at everybody. Wearing hoodies, wearing just flying shirts. You can't tell. Wow. So I need to understand the system. But for interviews, it's important that you wear your tie, you wear your jacket. So don't come and say UK culture and you just wear corporate casual. No, you have to dress well. Because even the people who say they wear corporate casual, they wear anything here, when they see you that you dress well all the time, they know that is the right thing to do and they commend you for that. So they know that they just don't do it. So you dress well and then be authentic, be your authentic self. So when you still perspire and you are still agitating, you are still learning, you need to get to the point where you can even laugh in the interview panel, have your glass of water, just feel free. It's a conversation, it's a chat, it's not do or die. If they will take you, they will take you. So be your authentic self, confident, and it's okay to say, I've not thought about this before. Or let me think about this. Okay, can you say that again? Can you repeat the question so that you can have a minute to process it? So you are being authentic and you are being open. So you can't say you're an introvert, that you don't talk much, you just say yes, no. You have to be expressive. So because it's all the things you say that will now tell that you are hyper and you know what is called knowledge sharing. So you have knowledge sharing behavior. So, I'm sorry to say, in Nigeria, our academic environment where we are taught in it at a descriptive. We operate in a descriptive manner. But in the UK here, they are teaching, and in America, the teaching system, the educational system is critical thinking and reflection. So we don't reflect. And I hate to generalize again, but that's the system I've come to know, that we don't really reflect. So we are at the level of description. We don't say, let me think about this, what happened in the past. And that is reflection, because when I talked about star, S-T-A-R, there is another R to that star, and the last R is called reflection. And when you have conversations, I can tell if you are descriptive or analytical or critical. You see me going back and forth trying to bring this, because I reflect. I say, okay, it happened at LBS. You don't want to talk at a vague general level, theoretical level. Give us example. So almost everything you say, you must bring the word for example. Once you start using the word for example, I remember a time I could recall, for example, 4 years ago, I was in this situation, then you are critical. But if you just go theoretical all through, no practical example, no reflection to say, I did it wrong at this time, I remember when I was having that challenge, then you can't smash it. So you have to show your humanity. You have to show your humanity. Learn to display your vulnerability. Again, from our people, we are very strong. We want to always show the positive side, that you are successful. No, we want to see your vulnerability. So even one of the things they love in the UK is resilience. Once you display resilience, you melt hearts. But even in displaying your resilience, Nigerians were very resilient. We've gone through tough times. Even in displaying your resilience, I remember writing a little piece of article to explain how I got a PhD scholarship. And I explained that I made 60 applications over 3 years or 3.5 years before I got one scholarship. But I remember writing one statement, and I didn't know that time because it was my first year. I need to go back to the article and see now how I would have put in it. But I displayed some reflection and I showed my humanity. I said that I was receiving those rejections and I felt so bad. For me to acknowledge I felt bad every time I got the rejection was very powerful. My supervisor now read it because the school published it, and I was like, this is very powerful. But I was not deterred. I kept applying. That alone, you have done the job, because you explained that this is how you felt, but you showed resilience. Your character, your personality has manifested. So we don't want someone that cannot stand the test of time, that cannot face challenges. Yeah, so show your humanity, show your resilience. And lastly, be prepared to ask them questions. So you must look for questions, not a question that you should have known the answer by checking their websites, but you need to have a very strong, important question. For example, career development. Do they have any career development program in the company? The prospect for growth and development? And then you could ask them, what is the greatest challenge that you could say you are facing at the moment as a manager? My wife did it recently in a job interview, and the question was like, it just melted her heart. It was like, I found the problem of my life. So, it was like, so she didn't know the time she melted. It was like, you don't know what I'm going through. So it's like, you too, you have hit them. So, and like, for you to ask that kind of question, you are enthusiastic, really, you have a vision, you really want to make a substantial contribution, and to know what their challenges and how you can help. Yeah. So then last, be prepared for rejection and keep knocking the door. Like we say in Christian Palace, that rejection is God's redirection. So be prepared for rejection. And when you keep consistently, keep knocking at the door will open. Yeah, that's my presentation on interviews.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. I think your sessions are very like down to earth, which is the thing I like. Like, you're not speaking loftily over our heads. It's down to earth, it's practical, this is the thing, and simple, so that anyone following can actually grasp. It's not over anyone's head and all that. So I really want to say thank you. So this is the time for any questions. We have a couple of people who had joined us since we started. So if anyone has any question or wants to make a comment, please feel free to raise your hand so I can just call on you, just so that it can be orderly, So we have Boyega, Deyinka, Antonia, Eunice, Kenny, Olushore, Ore, Taiwo. Any questions? Okay. No one is saying anything. I don't think there is. So I just want to ask a question. So since you said that the litmus test for knowing whether your CV is good is getting calls, like, what if you don't get? Because for us, situations of like us that are coming from outside, and you're on a certain what's it called, some kind of pathway visa, and some companies are not looking to sponsor, for example, and that might be the decision, the factor for which someone is not calling, because they're looking at the CV and they're like, okay, yes, this person might be better than this person, but then along the line I might have to sponsor this person's visa. And so what if that is the issue you have? How do you think you can go about that? Because that sponsorship can actually be an issue, especially if you're not in one of these like very highly skilled jobs that they know that they really need you, or else,
Yeah. Okay, thank you. But I don't think from the CV they can immediately tell if they need to sponsor you or not, except the application is holistic, where there's a section they ask you what kind of visa that you have. But even at that, it's now based on how many people applied for the role. So based on people that apply for the role, are you solid? Are you strong? Because there's always a window for which they need people. And once they need people, based on people who have applied. So if you have applied, they will not just want to write you off all because they don't want to sponsor. It's for them to first see that you have what it takes, you are good, you're solid. And then don't forget again the type of job and the pay. So if you're applying for administrative roles, traditionally the fee for administrative jobs are £20,000, £18,000. So you can't be applying for those kind of jobs and expect that they will sponsor you. So if you are coming from Nigeria, you're in the UK, you need to be strategic in your applications. So you're applying for jobs that high-profile jobs that can pay from £30,000. And then any company that is applying, putting a vacancy for jobs from £30,000 and above, know that they also will have the capacity to sponsor. Okay. Even if they don't sponsor you immediately, if you still have some time in your visa, you can take those jobs and have experience while applying for other jobs that potentially sponsor. But you need to look at that cap for the salary, not no paying jobs, because they will never sponsor.
All right, thanks. Taiwo, please, before I get to you, let me just ask Antonia's question on the chat. She said she wants to know if you can suggest any training companies, as referred to in last week's session. You talked about, bridging the gap with some, training or workshop companies. So she's saying if you can suggest any.
Okay, thank you. Because I don't know the field exactly that you are in, and I'm not, it's not like they are all over the place like that. The UK system work with clicks. It is very strong with clicks. So if you are new to the UK, you need to start building what we call community. You need to start building. So I'll give you suggestions for building your community. Then it's from those community you will get financial analysts. It's from those community that you get support. For example, I believe we're all Christians here. So you need to join a church. And in that your church, you won't just go there on Sunday. You have to be involved. So they will have a home cell or house fellowship or men's or women's program or program. So you need to now get involved. Then who are the professionals in that church? So is there anybody that's an accountant or a financial analyst or business analyst? Talk to them. So if they're in the country and they're in that position, they will tell you the network to join. They will probably have done training or so. Then there are other fellowships, like there's an overseas fellowship for Nigerian Christians that's spread in the UK. They have very strong network. So it's just someone that's in that field that can connect you. Then even in your school, there's always a Nigerian society in your school. Afro-Caribbean society, you need to get information. Because don't forget that broadly, the UK is an individualistic culture whereby they keep things to themselves. You be living in the streets, nobody will come out and play football. Can't see your neighbor. So they are not going to tell you that there's a network of anything. Another thing you can, apart from this network and building your community, you can search online. For example, go to Telegram, financial analyst group, Telegram, search. Of course, you know that there are fraudulent people there, you have to be smart. But when you search or go to Google or get apps, find out, you keep searching for groups, you will get. So I'm in academia and I'm a lecturer, so I don't have a group where I can tell you there's a financial analyst group or business analyst group, but my wife is a business analyst, and it was through church network, as I've just told, that we now know the number of business analysts in our church. They connected and they recommended her to one group, the Redeemed Church, that they organized workshop in London. That was how she joined that network. Eventually, she heard about 2 or 3 other ones, but they will always say pay. It's like, after joining this one, why should I pay for another one? But eventually, with information, found out that in one other group, they have 2 segments, group of people that join for the training to be a business analyst. And then there's another network for people that are already business analysts in different companies. So when you pay and you join the group, they will train you. Then when you have interviews, you come and tell them that you have interviews. They will now prepare you, brush you. If they tell you what to say, when you get the job, they will celebrate you. They will put you again in a wider pool of network of that professional. So even if you have a challenge in the job, other analysts will support you. You see the click system. But for you to get in, they say pay £800, £1,000. And these are the kind of group that they will shout. They won't be on Google and Facebook, but they are in this country. So that's the way to do it. So it's through your church, the network you build around you, or Telegram, or ask questions. Since I'm not part of that profession, I can't know them, and I can't recommend it to them.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you. So Taiwo, please, you can ask your question. Or right after Taiwo is done, you will.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for this session. I don't have a question. I have a contribution based on the other question you asked around sponsorship. Okay, so my contribution is based on my experience. So I initially had issues with getting companies that were willing to sponsor. However, I realized that there are some companies that are really open to sponsoring international students or people that are coming migrants, and we cannot discountenance the experience we are bringing in from Nigeria. So I would suggest that if we leverage on companies that are open to sponsorship, depending on the kind of jobs one is looking at, and like public sector, they might not be paying that much, but they are more open to sponsorship and their recruitment process is based on merit. So it's not, it's quite very open, such that there are points in which they would have even anonymized your personal details and all that, things that could stand as a barrier at times on some other job or for some other companies. So I would suggest that, because there are specific companies that are open to sponsoring. So, and I'm talking based on the experience I've had.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Taiwo. Thank you. Ore?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ore.
Hi. I just want to add to what the presenter was talking about preparing for rejection. And I think a lot of us, most times, we don't prepare. I know we believe in God and we have faith and we want to get the job and everything. But if you have at the back of your mind, it helps actually, if you have at the back of your mind that, okay, this might work and this might not work. And if you have that at the back of your mind, how you handle it really will help, and it matters. From my own personal experience, I'm sure I've had like at least 100 rejections in my career. And the current job, I'm a teacher, by the way. And before then, I was in IT and I went to project management and I wanted to go into finance, risk management and all that. So I've gone different places and trying to find work. So, and that was one of the things that shook me at the start, being rejected. I'm like, but my CV is solid. The interview went great, and things like that. And then they will say no. And you're wondering, and then you find out that, okay, you saw the person at the interview that they offered the job, and you're like, I can't do this role now. Why why is it me? Is it me? And what helped, initially, I took it very personal. And it stopped me from actually applying, because I'm like, they're going to reject me anyway. But I then turned it around like, well, if they reject me, then it's not mine. I will learn from it, and I'll always ask for feedback from an interview. Because initially, when I started like 22 years ago, I was rejected in every role I applied for when I first got into the country. That was in 1999. And I didn't know why I was being rejected. I was like, I have qualification, I have this. Until after like 20 rejections, I was like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then I was told I wasn't making eye contact. And I'm like, oh, okay, eye contact. And from our background, where we're coming from, eye contact, you don't look adult in the eye. That's what we're told. Somebody that is superior to you, you don't look them in the eye. It's a sign of reference, it's a sign of deference, it's a sign of respect. Whereas coming to a different country is a sign that you're unsure, you're insecure, you lack, you're not a team player. There's so many negative things attached to eye contact. And I thought I was being respectful by not looking them in the eye and answering questions. I didn't know that it was actually working against me. And I had to consciously, and it was difficult. I didn't know it was going to be that difficult. I had to consciously look people in the eye when they're talking to me. I'm like telling myself, I'm staring you down. I'm not going to move my eye. I'm going to look at you. It's me and you today. That kind of thing. And I still find myself, even years and years later, still drifting away from people when I'm talking to them or when they're talking to me, because it's an habit that we formed over the years. So what I'm just going to say is, when you get a rejection, just look at it as, okay, that's what can I learn from it? try and find out why. A lot of times you won't get a reason and they won't reply you, and they will already tell you from the rejection that they're not going to give you a feedback. And that's because I didn't know that until I started looking for roles in finance. Then I realized that for a role, they might get someone actually that worked at UBS told me this. And I was shocked when he said to me, he said, we might get 700-800 applications for one role. We don't have the time to look at every CV we get. And he said to me, what they do in that situation for that particular guy, what he said they put like 20 chairs, 10, 20 chairs in the room. And they throw all the CVs up in the air. If yours land on the chair, they look at it. If yours land on the floor, that's tough luck. They're not going to look at it. So from the start, the odds are like stacking against a lot of people. And I'm like, so this me at home, thinking I've applied for a role, waiting for the callback, not knowing that my CV landed on the floor, you know. And so they don't, because it's a lot of CVs. And I get it, they have to. And this then also brings me back to networking. Networking. That is key. Is a lot of those jobs, they already have people. They're just putting the advert out most of the time just to fulfill all righteousness, to support HR criteria that they have to advertise the role. A lot of them, people get the jobs from pubs. The amount, especially for those of you that are interested in finance, you don't have to go and drink in pubs. You can go and drink Coke. But if you want to work in the city, pub, you can't turn your back at pubs. I've seen a lot and I've heard of a lot of people whose careers were made in the pub and whose careers ended in the pub. So, and they want to see your team player, your team is going, you go there, you leverage, you meet people, you meet people, you talk about it. That's where they discuss all the deals and all the jobs and all the interviews are done in the pub. It's amazing the amount of roles that get given out in the pub. So, don't say, I'm a Christian, I don't do alcohol, I can't be in a public house. If you want to grow your career, you might have to do some things. You're not drinking, you're not smoking. You go there and drink Coke, but you're meeting someone there who is because pub is a leveler. The CEO of Citibank is going to be there. And when they're in the pub, everybody's on the same level. They don't care, you don't know who is who. And so that's an opportunity to meet people, to then talk about, so then that's where they're introducing themselves. So what do you do? What do you do? I'm actually, there's actually a role I have, you know. Or I know someone who has a role, or I know someone who knows someone, or someone was asking me if I know someone. You know, those are the conversations that happen. And you have to be where it's happening so you can follow your lap. And if you're not there, you won't get it. And don't be afraid, finally, don't be afraid of applying to the same place again and again, and for the same job. I'm a testimony to that. The job I'm currently doing, I applied 4 times and I got it the 4th time. I first applied in 2006, then I applied in 2012, then I applied in 2018 or thereabout. And the last time when I saw the role again as a teacher, maths teacher, I was like, this school definitely they don't want me. That's why they haven't given me the role. And I told myself, I've got nothing to lose. And I applied again. There's nothing that has significantly changed in my CV in those times, but I applied again. But this time, I got the job. I even got the job without me stepping there. I was interviewed, because it's lockdown, I was interviewed online, you know, and I still got the job. So never give up and don't say, because I've applied. That is pride, our own pride. I said, they don't want me. I don't even want their job anyway. I'll go somewhere else. No, that is pride talking. You want them and you want the role and you want to get in. And once you get the first one, that's the one that is always very difficult. Once you get one, it's easier to move along to what you like and what you want to do next. But try and get in first. As long as you get your foot in the door, that's the most thing. So it might not be what you really want, but make sure you get your feet in the door. You're in there, be doing that on the way to enjoy where you are, on the way to where you're going. And and that will well. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Adeyinka said he has a contribution. I think that's the last one. Adeyinka.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening.
Okay. Hi. Good evening.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Just a very quick one. Thanks for this wonderful explanatory on interviews, which is quite very good. and I'll talk based on my own experience. I'm into technology, digital technology, and at times I do sit to interview people when we want to bring in guys into. I work in a consulting firm, so apart from behavioral aspect, just like Mr. Godbless have explained to us, I would say please know your onions very well. It is quite very, very important because most of the time, yeah, people do very well when it comes to behavioral. Most of the time they will tell me, oh, Nigerians are the most happiest people. When we're in an interview, we smile, we do all those sort of things. But when they start to ask those serious technical questions, people tends to mumble, and then at the end of the day, the person gets to lose it. And I tell people that the only luck I do tell people I know is that when you preparation meets what I called opportunity, prepare very, very well. As much as you prepare very well for, if you're going to be interviewed for a developer, make sure you know it in and out, knowing fully that, number one, we are in a foreign land and there are so many people out there also. And so that at least put in your best, and if you've done your best, it will be okay. So know your onions very well. Put up a very good attitude that says, yes, I can do this thing. And then even though, just like they have said, even if you get rejection, keep applying. I remember when I came into England, before I got a job, I have to reopen a new email, and every day, if I get one rejection, I will reply with 30 how will I put it? I will apply for 30 roles. If they reject me twice in a day, I will apply 60 times. I will just keep applying. And then you start to get, and then you learn from all those things. But the major thing, prepare very well. I mean, where we are is a very, very tight situation. And for the work permit also, I would say that, yeah, some companies do, some don't do. People can try technician. I was opportunity to do that. There's a technician visa which is like a tier 1 where you don't have anybody to sponsor you. Of course, it's more related to digital people, technology people, but it will be very good so that you are free to work with anyone. And then lastly, just pray. God is the lifter of men. No matter what, the odds can be prepared, but victory belongs to God. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Adinka. Thank you for everyone who has contributed, who has asked questions. I hope this has really been helpful. Thank you so much again, God bless, for helping us take this and the last one. I really appreciate. So before we start to drop off, we didn't have the breakout session because a lot of people weren't here. So I don't know if we want to do it now. Can people just chat and let me know if it's something we want to do now or we should leave it off? Okay. I think I can. I think I can stop the recording now because the session is over.